Hey, welcome to the New England Endurance Podcast, where we celebrate the endurance community of New England. I'm your host, Art Trapotsis, along with Eric Schenker. So, Eric, I know this is a podcast about endurance sports, but I'm super pumped about the Bruins and particularly the Celtics last night. Just clinched.
When Boston teams, when New England teams, right? Like these are New England teams are in the playoffs. There is definitely a little bit more of an energy here. And I'll bring it back, but I'm going to bring it back to endurance for a minute. And that is Zdeno Chara, the 6'9" former Boston Bruins captain.
A beast,
ran a 3:30 at Boston this year.
Is unbelievable.
And that's so I ran one year, and it was the first year he ran, and I did beat him, but it was not by much.
What's the pace on that?
So he ran an 8:03 pace. He's 6'9". So my question is it easier for him? Because one of his strides has to be three of my strides. So I wonder how many steps he took. But that's pretty impressive.
That's pretty cool.
A 3:30 marathon at Boston, guy 6'9". So even those team sport folks can enjoy endurance sports in the future.
We have someone just as impressive today here on the podcast.
What?
Today we're chatting with local legend Patria Vandermark. Patria and I go way back to the infamous Ride Studio Cafe days in Lexington, Mass. And she does a lot of things for the local cycling community. She's the founder and adventure coordinator for the New England Expedition Riders, NEER, which we will unpack today. In addition, she runs a mobile bike selling business called Ride Headquarters, and she leads sales for 7 Cycles in Watertown, and somehow finds time to log in some serious miles because I see her on the Strava. And she was born and raised in Colorado, which we won't hold against her because this is the New England podcast. And she lived in Italy for a year, racing, guiding bike tours. I'm super interested to hear about your perspective in riding those areas of the world as compared to New England. We'll get to that towards the end of the show. Welcome, Patria.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here. It's good to see you again, Art.
It's
been a while. Good to meet you, Eric.
Yeah, great to meet you here. So we're really excited to have you on the podcast. I think the best place to start is with the New England Expedition Riders. That sounds really interesting. I was kind of like looking at my calendar and your calendar events as like, okay, which one can I start to join? And it looks like there's some right around the corner. Give us a deep dive on that club. And am I right that it's actually the merging of 2 former clubs? So take us through the New England Expedition Riders.
Sure, and I'm going to call it NEER for short because that's a lot quicker and easier to say. NEER is the combination of a few various ventures where we've been running rides for the past 13 years of a whole bunch of varieties and things that most people aren't doing in terms of long distances, unique, creative routes. We did gravel long before gravel was a thing with Honey 100, if people remember that.
I remember that.
Absolutely,
Yep.
yeah.
We did the Diverged ride for a few years in the past. That was also pre the term gravel.
Gravel being cool.
Everyone had cyclocross bikes back then.
Yeah.
Exactly. We had a number of people show up on those rides with 28 millimeter road tires. And at the end, they're like, that was amazing. That was so great. And now people are like, should I ride 40 millimeter tires or 45? Or maybe I should be going to 50 plus. It's really fun to see just people coming out looking for adventure, interesting rides, wacky food stops in the middle of nowhere where you don't expect them to be. And our trails around here are amazing to be able to take advantage of the mixed terrain, which isn't gravel. So there's gravel and there's mixed terrain, 2 totally different things. But we could talk for 4 hours about that alone. So NEER is a compilation of a lot of these various creative rides. Like we just finished up the Brutiful series because tough time of year to ride your bike, 100-kilometer type rides.
You said
Brutiful. I love it. Sorry, can we take that for the podcast? I mean, that like Brutiful is New England, right? I mean, that might be that will be the word of the year next year for the Webster Dictionary. The word of the year was YOLO, and now it will be Brutiful. So I love that.
So as we did this whole spring has definitely been that definition. We get out there when it's tough weather, as long as we don't ride trails when they're wet, because we really believe in taking care of trail health.
I love that. Yeah.
It's really important to us to be advocates for our trails and support NEMBA and groups who do a lot to take care of trails and create trails. So we feel like we're just really lucky to have those resources available to us here. And then we run rides all over New England. So our rides have started in Rhode Island and New Hampshire, all over the place. And
Anything
now
in Connecticut?
As a matter of fact, our last Brutiful ride started in, I think we started it in Rhode Island, but it went over into Connecticut pretty quick. So we definitely included some Connecticut.
There's endurance in going
Okay,
on
we'll
Connecticut.
allow it.
And we've started rides in Voluntown, Connecticut. That's another really nice place to start. A lot of really great dirt roads down there. And then we've got the Trail Mix rides coming up May 11th. So I'm not sure when this is being published. We offer a 100K version of the ride. And this is more gravel, where you have more dirt roads, some back paved roads and trails as well. And then 150 miler. But this is where we're allowing people some big rides supported. There's someone out there serving food. Last year we served pies. We might serve pies again. The ride starts out of the Red Apple Farm, and they've been a super, super supporter.
Where's that at?
That's in Phillipston, Mass.
Okay.
So central. We call it Middle Mass.
Middle Mass.
It's just the east of the Quabbin.
I wonder if it goes by the Mid-State Trail, which we learned about last. Have you ever heard of the Mid-State Trail?
I haven't, but we might be on it, and I wouldn't know
I think
what it's called.
Like I wouldn't. That would be really cool if that was part of it.
to check that out.
Yeah.
So we offer these things where people can stretch themselves. You've got all day. We try to take a step back and away from racing. So people can go as fast as they want to go, but also stop, smell the roses, have a lot of fun talking with your friends. There's a plenty of great events in New England that are timed. And you can pay to get a clock anywhere in a lot of different places. There's so many events here that we feel like we want to focus on fun, on endurance. And yeah, if you want to clock yourself and put it on Strava, go for it. That's totally fine.
So Patria, is NEER a club or is NEER a event organization?
It's both.
Okay.
We offer weekend rides. Most weekends, not every weekend, but most weekends we offer something. We have Wednesday morning, 6 a.m. training rides, which are interval sessions in a way, but it's also no drop, which is really neat because it allows everyone to go their pace, not get dropped. We have a regroup point. Everyone's really supportive of everyone else. So we have these group rides where you pay for memberships, $50 a year at our lowest level. We also say, hey, if you can't afford it, just shoot us a note. It's totally fine.
Do you get any swag with the membership?
At the Cat 4 level, your swag is feeling good about yourself for coming out on the rides.
Okay.
And we send at least weekly emails, which help everyone feel more connected with each other. It's really the building of the community. And there's so much to be said for making people feel guilty. And I'm saying this in a really positive way. You sign up for something, you're more likely to come out and do it. And we ask for RSVPs for all of our rides. One, so we can communicate with you if there's weather and we need to make a change or something like that. But also, it helps when you've signed up for something and you've invested something. $50 for a year is not much.
That's totally reasonable.
And then you're more likely to come out and you make friends. And we love it to see friend groups form, that people are going out riding together, organizing their own rides because they now have friends and they have people to get rides with to rides. So that's the arm of we have good, fun, organized weekend rides. And then we have the event rides, which we charge something for. We put those on Bike Reg. And that's it offers.
What would be an example of one of those?
So that would be like the trail mix that's coming up out of Red Apple.
Okay.
That's Minea, which is a bike packing trip coming up June 1st. So that's starting. Minea is...
Where are you going there?
Massachusetts to New Hampshire. That's where Minea comes from. That's what that word means. So we're going to start in Air, Mass, and then ride around Hancock, New Hampshire. And we've got a campground. We've got a whole half part of a whole campground reserved for campers. And this is
awesome.
This is the first bike packing
Yeah.
event that we've talked about on it. on the podcast. So I think that's really interesting.
And we've done Manea in the past as well, that we went up to another farm in New Hampshire, which is now an amazing place and wedding venue. We couldn't afford it if we wanted it, but this campground's great. And people want bike packing events because it's really hard to organize that yourself. It's hard to just say, "Oh, I'm going to go bike packing."
I'd love to get into bike packing, but I'm a little scared to do it. You know, how much stuff do I have to carry? What type of gear? So this is sort of like a supported bike packing adventure.
Right. Exactly.
This is fantastic.
I think it's really cool because it's one of those things that I would say a lot of us are like, that would be really cool. I don't know where to start.
Right.
I've got plenty of bikes. And if it's an excuse to get a new bike, even better. But obviously, like, what are you putting, what are you packing? How are you distributing the weight on the bags? All those different things. And I see the people out there, when we're driving in northern New England, certainly in Maine. I feel like there's a lot of coastal Maine bike packers is where I see them. But this is really cool to be able to do that in a group and learn from that. I think that's really special.
Right. It's really neat to have that forum. Like, when we'll carry your stuff for you, we have a vehicle, and a number of people are selecting that option. But we want people to try it out and to see the challenges of where you put the stuff and having an organization system. It's complicated. And I think a lot of cyclists like that complication. It's a challenge. It's in a different way than simply riding your bike.
And you don't have to be part of the club to do this event?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a fee.
Right.
Obviously, but that's really good to know that some of these really fun sounding events are, you pay like anything else and you'll get the support from the organization.
Absolutely. It has a lot to do with insurance. That if you're in the club, you have the club insurance that covers all the weekend rides and that sort of thing. And then with bike reg events, there's separate insurance that we need to get for that, and that allows anyone to do it. And we usually almost always give NEER members a discount for the event rides.
So that makes sense.
What is bike bingo? I saw that as an event, and I said, like, Art is obsessed with beer mile like this. So that was something we learned about
the beer mile
from a running club. So I'm trying to find the equivalent on the cycling side, and bike bingo sounds really interesting. So what is bike bingo?
So we did this last November because November can be a month where people lose motivation.
Oh yeah,
you don't have an event.
It's brutal.
Right. A lot of times people will get on their bikes because they have a ride coming up. You like PMC, that's your goal ride for the year. There's usually something that will keep people riding. And then November, it's like, well, what's next? All the events are over. So it was called Motivational Bike Bingo. And it was go find a historical statue or a cool covered bridge and check that off. And we had other things too, like clean your bike. That was the center square for everybody. Clean your bike.
Love that.
Learn how to change a flat. Ride a bike you've never ridden before. Like, that's a neat one because it might get you out doing something you haven't done before.
Sprint for a town line.
That would be a good one for you, Art.
Yeah, Art. Way to make this about racing, Art, right? Like, yeah.
Sorry.
No, but I love that's great. I think it sounds. You guys are familiar with the November Project. I think there's a little bit of that same origin to November Project, and that's a really tough time of the year here. It's not yet the holidays. The racing season is over. The weather's getting tough. You can see it. It's cold. It's dark. How do you stay motivated? And I love this. This is a really cool. Are you going to do bike bingo again?
It's already on Bike Reg.
It's already on Bike Reg. Oh, so is there a
that was
finite,
an easy one.
Yeah. So it's a finite period of time.
It's for the month of November.
Right. Great. And when does the bingo card come out? Is that like a big reveal? Is that a top secret thing?
Right, that's just right before.
Oh, I love it.
Before November starts, you can sign up anytime.
Can listening to this podcast and giving it a review and 5 stars be one of the bingo items?
I like it. Yes, we'll add that. And I'm taking requests from members. What's funny is once you start playing bike bingo, it doesn't actually end at the end of November. You'll discover that one of them is find a couch, take a picture with a gross couch. That's it's sort of a joke that we have going on. But you keep doing it. And you keep looking for things.
So let's say, like, for people that listen to this podcast, because this is going to come out in a week, so this is going to come out mid-May. in the comments, whether on Instagram or on Spotify, give some ideas for bike bingo.
Yes.
I like
Right?
it.
Like, let's get engaged here with the audience. So I love it. That sounds, I'm going to do it.
That's fantastic.
Like I'm totally going to do it because I've already lost motivation. So I sort of feel like knowing that that's coming will actually almost maybe propel, like we'll bridge the gap. You know what I mean? In some way. So that's really, do you have to send a picture? I'm sorry, I'm really focused on bike bingo. Like, do you have to like take a picture of yourself and submit it? Like doing that
There's a number of things we encourage playing on Instagram in order to make it more social.
Oh, that's good.
That makes sense.
That really helps. And then you get the people saying, hey, good job. That's awesome. Some people really got into it, and it got them out there on a rainy day. When it was tough.
This is a phenomenal idea.
I think it's a great. I'm like, my brain is spinning. Like, how do we steal that and use that here around the pot? But I think,
welcome to steal it. In fact, I saw it. I think it's Mass Bike published a bingo board yesterday. I'm on their email. I think it's Mass Bike.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to think that they saw our bingo board, and that's great.
But
the more people are playing, the better.
Patria, you're so right. People in New England understand November, right? Like they all get it. And if you're listening from another part of the country, November is a unique month here, right? Yep. And
usually rainy,
getting cold, dark. It's not yet the holidays. Kids are nowhere near done with school. Like there's just sadness in a way. So it's almost like February a little bit too. But
let's dig in a little bit to the club for a second. Just curious about sort of demographics, experience levels. Like what types of rides do you all do? I mean, you mentioned sort of adventures, it mostly, off-road, sort of what's the size of the club? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
We have about 200 members now. People are into it.
Wow.
We're really fortunate to have nice people. I would say fundamentally, people are really nice and looking for community, and that's who we're attracting. And they're all ages, all experience levels. We have people who we have Olympians. Like Mary McConaughey is a member.
Hey, shout out to Mary.
That's right. And Mike Broderick, her husband, who was an alternate to the Olympic team. So we're talking really high-level riders.
Almost there.
They've done a tour on Martha's Vineyard with us in previous years. We'll see if we can do that again with them this year. But we
Any
have
former rowers? Do you know?
We have current rowers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have a woman who comes out to a lot of our rides. She rows Tuesday, Thursday mornings. Yvette.
Oh, Yvette. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure we have other rowers as well. We've got a lot of interests out there.
They're probably
represented.
the smarter people in the club, or like just kind of guessing. They're probably rowers. But anyway, we can keep getting back to demographics.
Well, that's the other thing about demographics is that once you've put on your bike clothes and you're on your bike, you could do anything for a living. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yep.
And you're all having the shared experience. And we don't differentiate. Like, you can bring out whatever bike as long as it's tuned up and doesn't creak and squeak. You're good to go. Minimum tire size, of course, is important depending on the terrain. We also offer road rides. We've done plenty of those this spring. When it was too wet to be on the trails, we would change our mixed terrain rides into a road ride.
Typical week. You mentioned Wednesday intervals. Mm-hmm. What does the week look like? Are there a couple of rides each week or?
Every week's different. Okay. And that's part of what makes us weird is that we don't have a consistent every single, except for the Wednesday mornings right now, every weekend is different. We've done both Saturday and Sunday rides a lot in the spring. And now that there's a lot more events, and also we have to scout for a lot of the big event rides that we're doing. So we don't need to offer as many weekend rides now because there's a lot out there for people. But yeah, they range from everything. Typically our road rides will be 100K road rides. But if it's not appropriate, no one's been riding or who knows what, we might have a shorter ride. Mixed terrain rides will usually have a shorter distance and a longer distance, something like 18 miles and 25 to 30 miles. So we'll have a variety of options. So it's all over the place, and it gets longer
That's
with
fair,
the
yeah.
weather. But also, we've done some really serious winter rides. We've done Brutal Fat Bike, which is a 100-mile fat bike ride on the Cape, which is really good.
Oh my.
That's an amazing ride. So yeah, it's who knows what. It's harder. It's trickier to do that. It takes a lot of organization. It takes a lot of hours to put that together. It's not, every Saturday morning, show up at 9 a.m. and we have a ride. That would be easy. We choose the more difficult.
What's your vision for the club, let's say a few years out, 5 years out, let's say? Do you have a long-term vision?
Wow. I just, all I know is what we've done in the past. It is a predictor of our future, which is just longer, crazier, more interesting. Maybe we go to different places. Maybe we go to overseas, possibly. But it's been just like, oh, wow, what are we doing in a few years?
Take it day by day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, just
that's
following
fine.
what people want. I mean, we do follow, like, feedback from members means a lot. When people say, hey, this is what I'd like to do, you're often going to find a ride that looks something like that. And we're always looking to try new things. So, yeah.
I love the variety of it because I think we all can fall into that. I mean, some people, I've got 2 dogs and I love to walk the dogs. But I'm always trying to walk the dogs in different places, right? However, when I always circle back at this one Chewbacca Woods, 100% of the time, I see the same people. And the assumption is that they walk there every day at the same time, the same loop with the same dogs.
Yeah.
I can't do that. That's not for me. So this organization is really appealing to me because I don't mind, hey, on Wednesdays, we're going to do this. But it can't be every week the same thing over and over again. That just doesn't keep me motivated. And this sounds really interesting and intriguing. And I'm sort of excited to sort of find some fun events on the calendar and come join when it makes sense. Like I like the full moon ride. That sounds really cool to me. Like I love hiking full moon and things like that.
Did that already happen? Or is it every full moon?
It's most full moons.
12 times a year.
We've been running the full moon ride since 2016.
I think I
Since
joined
we
you for one of
started
those.
Ride Headquarters.
It was so cool. It was just such
It's
an amazing
amazing.
event. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something special about the full moon. And some nights the full moon doesn't come out, and we offer full refunds.
Okay. Yeah. No, I really, I think that's...
Those are really fun. And at night, people turn off their power meters. They turn off their brains and the stress of the day.
Turn on the lights. But they do turn on
everyone's
lights.
bringing lights.
Okay, that's
Exactly.
good. Yeah. So...
But yeah, so that happened last week. I think we did that last week. Tuesday night, in fact, was the full moon ride. And then Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. was the training ride.
But to
And we
Art's
made it
point,
happen.
But to Art's point, is there multiple full moon rides a year,
yes.
or do you just do
Yeah.
one? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Every full moon we can ride. The early part of this winter was difficult with weather and rain and wet trails and that sort of thing. And we don't do night road rides. It just doesn't make a ton of sense. So we've had to cancel a few of them. But historically, as long as the weather's nice, and especially if it's like Tuesday through Thursday night, those are really good nights for it. Friday night's not good because people want to be up first thing Saturday morning for a big ride. Yeah. So there's certain nights we will move the full moon ride to be a more appropriate day of the week. So sometimes we might have almost full moon ride.
Almost full. That's fine.
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
We change the rules sometimes.
Yeah. So Patria, I sometimes I get my groceries delivered at the house. Almost every day there's an Amazon truck delivering something to my house. But I've never heard of a mobile bike selling company arriving to my house. I mean, there's mobile service, and I know you can order some bikes direct to consumer, but tell us a little bit about the mobile bike selling business.
Sure. So this is from my days of running 2 bike shops, brick and mortar. And then COVID happened, and it's really nice to be able to find people in their communities so that you can demo ride bikes. Because that's fundamentally, I sell 7 Cycles bikes. They ride amazingly well, and I can tell people until I'm blue in the face how great these bikes are and how perfect they are for everybody. Like 98% of people could be really well served with the bikes because they basically just do anything you say. Yes, this is what I want. The bike will do it. Okay. So fundamentally, that's where we're at. But you don't like, okay, so this is what she says, blah, blah, blah. She's a salesperson. I take the demo fleet or the appropriate demo bikes for whoever it is, meet up with people, typically in parks. I don't usually make house calls, and tell a person to take the bike and ride it where they love to ride and compare it to their current bike. Tell me what you love. Tell me what you might want to change. And then that's what you end up getting. So
That's brilliant.
Fundamentally, it's a great way to sell bikes. It brings a great experience to people, and you're not constrained by bike shop hours or location or any of that stuff. I'm like, hey, take the bike, ride it, enjoy it, and then let's talk about it.
That's real. I think for people that, let's say, haven't purchased a bike or a nice bike or something like that, you're right. Like, I mean, I lived in Cambridge. I bought a bunch of bikes at Belmont Wheelworks, right? Hey, go take this bike around the block, right? And it's a,
Yep.
I mean, so, okay, great. Felt good. Right turn, pothole, right turn. Sure, I'll take this one. So the thought about
Thousands of dollars later.
But the thought of you coming up and I'll say, oh, to Bradley Palmer, where a bunch of people ride on the bike path there. Oh, here, go for a ride on this, like putting that on your home turf. That's really, really innovative. And I don't know that I have heard of that or anybody else doing that. So what's the range for which you will travel with a demo fleet?
Well, it depends. I also do retailer support. So I've traveled states away, like to work with retailers in New Jersey. I was just up at Onion River.
Oh, great shot.
In Montpelier.
Great shot.
And we had a great demo day up there. Been down to Connecticut with a few of our retailers down there. So I'll do it from a retailer side, which helps them connect with their customers and get their customers on demo bikes. And then for me personally, yeah, Bradley Palmer, absolutely. I've gone up to New Hampshire a number of times to meet up with customers. And so yeah, I go
it's an
all
investment,
over the place.
right? I mean, it's an investment, and I would imagine that type of level of service helps people make a decision like, wow, this is a company I'd like to support. So speaking of which, dive in a little bit. I'm super familiar with Seven. Art, I know you're familiar with Seven. We used to race with a couple guys that were welders at Seven, but for the millions of folks that are listening here on this podcast, talk a little bit about Seven Cycles. I think people would be pretty amazed to know that there are hand-built titanium bicycles being done in New England.
Right.
So
Watertown,
Massachusetts. So give the pitch on Seven, because I think it's super cool.
Yeah, Seven Cycles was started over 27 years ago, has been in Watertown 26 of the 27 years. And I can't overemphasize the innovation that Seven employs and the testing and high quality standards at Seven. That Seven's helped define titanium welding in the industry. Steph is a welder there. She's welded over 10,000 frames. And experience and design knowledge is second to none at Seven. At Seven, we've created over 35,000 frames for people. That's over 30,000 custom frames. So, and stock rider-ready bikes are an option for getting a bike really quickly. 3 weeks, you can have a bike. That's where the design is already created of 36 different sizes, and you can be riding really quickly. Or custom, which is like the lead time right now is 7 weeks. Because Seven was built and designed.
That's pretty reasonable.
It's a company built on custom is important because no two people are the same. So therefore, no two people want the same bike, and that's really important from how the bike rides, how well balanced you are on the bike, to the tube set that's selected for each person. The weight of a person is really important. A lot of bikes on the market are way overbuilt for a light rider. or underbuilt for a heavier rider.
Like Art? Well, you were looking at Art when you said a heavier rider, so I just didn't know if that's what, sorry.
Thanks, Eric.
I mean, this is not on video, so I just wanted to be clear what she was doing.
So we're talking road bikes.
Road bikes, gravel bikes, mountain bikes, dual suspension mountain bikes.
Bike packing.
Yes, absolutely. Bike packing. We're building a bike for Jay Peterberry right now, which is terrific. He is like a legend in the gravel world. He's going to be inducted in the Gravel Hall of Fame at Unbound
That's excellent.
in May, and he'll be there on his new 7 Evergreen gravel bike. So
Wow. What's the top seller?
we're definitely selling a lot of gravel bikes now, but a lot of people are looking to update their road bikes, going from rim brake to disc brake. Also, a lot of people are wanting more all-road bikes, going from your max tire size of being a 28 to a max tire size of more 32 or 35.
A little bit more clearance, right? That they may have than today.
Yep, dual wheel set bikes, that's
yeah.
a big one. And travel bikes, S&S coupled travel bikes is a biggie too. Is that you want to take your bike with you when you travel, and it's so much easier to take a bike that can be decoupled and put in a case. And I'm an expert at that. I've done that packing so many times. I've made a YouTube on it actually. So
What's the YouTube channel? Can we check it out?
I'll share the link with you to put in your notes.
And could you just real quickly, and I know again this would be a whole separate podcast, but just give us the bullet points on titanium versus carbon fiber versus aluminum. Why titanium?
Titanium, and made the way 7 builds titanium, because you can't say any one thing about any one material. Like there's a lot of different builders out there doing various things. Is titanium is tough, it's light, it blows people away how well it rides, and the way we're able to make the chainstays stiff. We can build a bike with over 60% or more stiffness in the drivetrain than your high-end carbon bikes. And a lot of people think that carbon's the faster bike, but we see people on demo. Again, why do I demo bikes? Because you've got to feel it, and you see your PRs just add up. Why is that? The tires are better connected to the ground. You're descending with more confidence. The bike's designed well, so you're sitting on it better. You're more comfortable. Therefore, you're going to want to be on the bike longer, and that also translates to speed. So the stiffness of the drivetrain is really important, but also the vertical compliance, the comfort in the saddle. Like people are blown away by how smooth the ride is. And that's inherent with the frame. So there's no gimmicks, proprietary things going on with the frame, which often leads people who have proprietary parts that break. Their frame is no longer useful, or they have to wait 6 weeks for a part. So our bikes are simply something that you can ride and you can forget about the bike. Fundamentally, if you can forget about the bike.
Why are we riding carbon bikes?
I mean, I've always admired them, right? Like, again, we've just raced and ridden with so many folks, and I feel I feel embarrassed that I haven't ridden a 7. You know, I haven't. And I would say the things that you're talking about now is I am absolutely prioritizing comfort right now in my riding. I want to ride longer. I want to.
Because you're getting old.
Because I am getting old. Hey, she looked at you when she said heavy, so it's not that's not the issue. But it is about comfort for me and just riding longer and having a great time on the bike. So I don't know. Maybe I'll need to have somebody drive up with a demo fleet to the North Shore. I'll help you with.
I'd be happy to meet you out there, Eric.
On the North Shore.
Well, when you talk about endurance, there's nothing like a 7. When you're talking about speed and all other stuff, but if you only ride 30 miles and that's the longest ride you ever do, maybe you aren't concerned about comfort. But endurance, you want that bike to keep riding well, and you want it to be there for you, and you want to be comfortable mile after mile. And when you're fresh at the end, you're riding fast and you're having a better ride.
I'd imagine it would be nice to drive into the garage and see a 7 hanging there. Like that would make me feel good, knowing that's a local handmade bike, right?
It'd be a dream come true.
That'd be cool.
Yep.
Patria, looking at the NEER calendar on the website, transitioning a little bit here, there seems to be quite a few events that are adjacent to some existing events like D2R2 and Great Glen.
Yep.
What are some of your favorite New England events and maybe any hidden gems?
Ooh, that's a good one. I definitely love D2R2. It's just a great time to see people who you haven't seen in a long time, brings people from all over New England.
And that's in the Berkshires?
It's Deerfield.
Okay.
Deerfield
I'm not sure if
Dirt
that's
Road Randonnée, D2R2. I actually just emailed Mary this week. So I'm trying to
She's great.
I'm trying to get Mary on because that
she's
event
terrific.
is epic.
It
I mean,
is.
that is really as epic as event in New England, I think, gets. So
They do a great job of having a lot of varieties of distances for families and for your hardcore riders. So they offer so much, and there's camping and fires. They had a huge bonfire last year, the night before the ride. It's really neat. So that's a good one for sure.
Any others?
Muddy Onion that I just got back from, that Onion River Outdoors puts on. That was terrific. I really enjoyed that.
Muddy
Saw
Onion.
a lot of people from here up there. It's a 3-hour drive north from Boston, but
Was that the same weekend as Rasputita, though?
it was the weekend after Rasputitsa.
Okay, gotcha.
So they ended up with perfect weather, and muddy was not really. It was like the unmuddy onion. So we've had so many muddy rides, and muddy is fun. You know, the Natchaug Epic is an early season one that just had the
Richard
biggest
Trees.
puddles, and but that one is it hits early, which I always find it's a good endurance, just sort of a kick in the pants. And it was miserable for a lot of people this year. I went with my fat bike and winter boots and waterproof socks, and it was great. But
Speaking of fat bike, I have to bring this up. You have a goal for 2025 to do the Fat Pursuit event in Idaho.
Yep.
Could you tell us what this is about and why you want to do this thing?
Why would anyone want to ride their bike 200 kilometers in the Idaho snow in what could be minus 40-degree temperatures in January? Well, one, I really like an event that happens in January because I have a lot less work pressure at that time of year to train for myself. It also gets me through November. All the conversation about November, I'm training really hard at that time. I love riding the fat bike. I love snow. It's something that brings so many people back to being a child. And I am fully willing to admit that I love being a child on the bike. It's a wonderful feeling. And going to all the bike packing challenges of how you pack your bike and how you eat and how you deal with just all the small nuances of staying alive for that sort of long ride. So we're talking the fastest people for that ride are going to be, 18 hours, but they're like professional cyclists, kind of fast. And the average person to complete a 200K fat bike snow ride in Idaho is going to be somewhere between 30 and 50 hours.
Oh, so you're sleeping out there.
You're sleeping out there, which is part of the fun challenge. You're carrying your sleep system. That's a requirement. So it's a full-on bike packing setup on your fat bike, but with everything being appropriate for winter. So it's all heavier, it's bigger, and you've got to be on. You're constantly doing things. You're like, I've got all these hours out there. Yeah, you better constantly be eating, constantly drinking, moving things around. Battery management's really important in the wintertime. So it's a big challenge, and I did not finish when I did it 2 winters ago. And it's probably one of the only things I haven't finished in my life. So I would like to finish it. And it's an event that Jay Peterberry sponsors. It's a great opportunity to be, and Rebecca Rush shows up to it. And she also, both of them and someone else train, they do a workshop prior to the ride, which helps people learn from the very best endurance riders out there who have defined endurance riding and defined winter bikepacking. So yeah, great.
That's great. We're gonna have to follow along when you.
That's a really I felt important that we included that, even though it was outside New England, because it was so interesting of an event. So I'm glad you told
really
us about that.
Yep.
Is there anything else you'd like to plug on this podcast for the listeners out there?
Riding your bike. Ride your bike and get outside and ride your bike.
You mean get off Zwift?
What? I love Patria. Like I can't agree with you more, but I don't want to get hate mail, but I just
it's fine.
I'm not a Zwift guy.
It's great to have a trainer. It's great to have an indoor setup. I've spent thousands of hours on my trainer when I was training inside, but there's something so nice about getting out, about being with people, having conversations, connecting with people. I mean, why do I do what I do? It's to connect with people. It's to have a better life by way of spending time with people. And if you have the ability to get healthier and breathe fresh air, see vitamin D, get that into your skin, that's not a bad thing. But yeah, I think it's really important for people to get outside and remember what people were doing during the pandemic and how that changed people's lives, and to see people revert from that and forget that they have a bike. And I've seen a lot of people really surface from the pandemic and become serious endurance cyclists. So I've seen a lot of success from that. But there, as you can see, a lot of people have gone back to our cars and have forgotten the joy that we had during that really difficult time. There's still so much joy that you get from riding or being outside, doing things with people. I just find that being on the bike's the easiest because faster people can ride slower to,
absolutely
hang out with me anytime on the bike.
Yeah, it's an antidote to a lot of issues going on in society and depression, anxiety, to get out and connect with others and do athletics, do sports.
No, the bike is an amazing invention, right? So, all right, last question. During the intro, we found out that you were born and raised in Colorado. You also lived in Italy riding. Having lived in other great endurance regions, please tell me why you agree that New England is the greatest region of the country for the endurance community.
It is. And even though you've told me how to answer this question, I absolutely believe this is the best place. We have just such a variety of riding to do. In Colorado, I got bored because it was always the same 5 general routes. And I'm sure there was a lot more out there. I was just a road rider back then, so there's definitely more out there. I'm not dogging on the Colorado bike scene, but it's really interesting here. And we have trails that go behind people's homes in places that you just don't get this kind of mixed terrain riding in other areas. And I really feel like we have more avid people out there to do things with, too.
Absolutely.
So it's just beautiful, and I love the trees. Being from Colorado, I think it is something like everyone's like, why would you move from Colorado here? I want to move to Colorado. I love being here. I love what we have here. And I'm very much at home here, and I have no intention to ever go move anywhere else. I just love the community that I found here, and I love being part of it.
That's awesome. You've been an amazing ambassador to the cycling community ever since the first day I met you. And it was so awesome to have you on this podcast, on the New England Endurance Podcast. Thanks so much for coming out.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's been great. This has been a really fun conversation. A lot
Awesome.
a lot of places to go from here. And now I'm going to be thinking about more bingo squares.
Oh yeah, no, the bingo for me is really, I'm super excited. And we should, we couldn't do this podcast if it wasn't for our great sponsors. So we're powered by some really incredible sponsors. One of those is Lark Fine Foods. So you will be leaving with some delicious cookies for grownups. Lark Fine Foods is a 100% woman-owned specialty food company baking delicious small batch cookies inspired by grown-up consumers with sophisticated tastes. The greatest book ever written, I think that was one of the reviews I saw on Amazon, which is The Everyday Athlete, a book about balancing work, family, and fitness. What do you think about
Eric.
Yeah, written by Art. And then a new sponsor, which is Kinetic. Experience the brand boosting benefits of ketones on demand with a great tasting ketone drink, and that you can find that at drinkkinetic.com, and we'll post some discounts for all of those things, or at least certainly the Lark Fine Foods and Kinetic on our Instagram. No discount given on the book because it's in such high demand. For those that want to learn more about NEER and the New England Expedition Riders, visit newenglandexpeditionriders.com. We will definitely tag them on our Instagram page along with all the other things we talked about. And our Instagram is at New England Endurance.
Yes, and like Patria said, get out there, enjoy riding your bike, connect with other people, explore the beautiful terrain of New England, the brutiful terrain.
We are going to use that, just to be clear.
And what else do we want folks to do?
Would you just wave, right? Wave when you're out there. If you're riding and you see other riders, or you see runners, you see hikers, just wave.
Yes, thank you. Until next time.